Howdy-ho, campers. No, we're not really camping. I wouldn't camp. It's too cold right now. But today, getting ready for some snow to play in. I have two stories. That's the norm. And the first one is A Mountain of Mittens by Lynn Plourde. A great story. I'll say more in a minute. And then our last story, which is what the craft is based on today, is by Chris Van Dusen, and it's Learning to Ski with Mr. Magee. And it is a great little story. So, again, no bell. We'll change up. We'll change up this time. I'll get creative and find something fun for us. But anyway, yeah, it has been darn cold, so I am quite bundled up today. And let's just settle in for two good stories and a fun craft together. That's a good way to spend 25 minutes, eh? All right, here we go. So this Mountain of Mittens, illustrated by Mitch Vane, is such a realistic story because the kids keep losing their mittens. I have to say, as a mom, grandmother, teacher, former teacher, mittens, the lost and found tables at every school are getting piled up right now. You moms, dads, grandparents, teachers, you know what I'm saying. And you kids, you have been asked where your mittens and hats are. So, let's find out what happens to all of these mittens at the school. It's that time of year again. Don't forget your mittens at school, yelled Molly's parents. Nope, I won't, answered Molly. So Molly, heading off to school. You can tell her parents are like, don't forget them this time, so we can tell she's been forgetting them. Molly still had her mittens during morning recess, during lunch recess, and during afternoon recess. But just as she put on her mittens to leave school at the end of the day, she heard a teensy-weensy sneeze. Achoo! There, shivering and quivering in the corner of the terrarium was the class turtle Myrtle. Achoo! Achoo! Oh, bless you, Myrtle Turtle, you must be catching a cold, said Molly. Here, cuddle in my mittens. They'll keep you cozy. After school, Molly's teacher, Mr. Jolly, discovered Molly's mittens along with a few other mittens. He put them in the lost and found pile and mumbled, "They forgot their mittens." The turtle's losing the mittens. Mittens, mittens, my oh my, a mountain of mittens piled up high. So here's the lost and found box. So the box stops down here. The mittens are starting a mountain. Now keep watch on how big that mountain of mittens will become. The next day, Molly's parents velcroed Molly's mittens to her jacket. So did the other kids' parents. Don't forget your mittens at school, yelled Molly's parents. Nope, I won't. No way, answered Molly. And when we stop so you can see the picture, not only are the mittens going to be velcroed, we have the family dog velcroed, we have her toys, her stuffed animals, we have all kinds of things going to school with Molly because she's covered up in Velcro. Good plan on her parents' part, I guess. Molly still had her mittens during morning recess, during lunch recess, during afternoon recess. But at the end of the day, Molly and her whole grade practiced their winter musical on stage with Miss Holly, the music teacher. Miss Holly played the piano until her fingers with her fingers and jingled the bells with her toes as Molly and other students fa-la-la'd in their winter clothes. They even practiced opening and closing the stage curtains and taking a bow. After school, Miss Holly discovered Molly's mittens along with a few other mittens. She put them in the lost and found pile and mumbled and grumbled they forgot their mittens. She has her bells on her toes. Now look. Mittens, mittens, oh my, a mountain of mittens piled up high. The next day, Molly's parents crocheted her mittens together with a chain of yarn, and so did the other kids. So here's Molly, and she's got her mittens, and the string, if you will, the yarn has been crocheted around and around and around her arms and down through her jacket. Maybe you've had that happen. Don't forget your mittens at school, yelled Molly's parents. Nope, I won't, no way, no how, answered Molly. Molly still had her mittens during morning recess, during lunch recess, and during afternoon recess. But as Molly put on her mittens at the end of the day for the ride home, Mr. Golly's bus went slip, slide, sloosh, and slid off the snowy road. See? Okay. Now look what the kids are all doing. Oh, golly, Mr. Golly, said Molly, don't worry, we'll help. Molly and the other students used the iron chains on their mittens to lasso, yank, tug, and pull the bus back onto the road. That is very strong yarn. After all the students were safely bussed home, Mr. Golly discovered Molly's mittens along with a few of the other mittens. He drove back to the school and put them on the lost and found pile and mumbled and grumbled and rumbled, they forgot their mittens. So look at all the crocheted strings all over his bus. And now look how high the mountain of mittens. Mittens, mittens, my, oh my, a mountain of mittens piled up high. And these are the crocheted ones on top. The next day, Molly's parents duct taped Molly's mittens to her jacket. So did the other kids' parents. Don't forget your mittens at school, yelled Molly's parents. Nope, I won't. No way, no how, not me, answered Molly. Molly still had her mittens during morning recess, during lunch recess, and during afternoon recess. But at the end of the day, just as Molly put on her mittens, the principal, Mrs. Foley, called an emergency assembly. Mrs. Foley announced into the microphone, no one, I repeat, no one will be allowed to leave school today unless you all reclaim your mittens from the lost and found pile. Oh boy, look at that pile. Yikes, said Molly, the bus is waiting. So she dove into the lost and found pile along with a few other students. Grip, stick, stuck. Molly and the other students were duct taped to the pile. Holy mittens, yelled Mrs. Foley. We can't have our students stuck at school overnight. So Mrs. Foley hollered, help! Then Mr. Jolly, Miss Holly, Mr. Golly, and Mrs. Foley tussled and tugged to try to free Molly and the other students. Grip, stick, stuck. They got stuck too. Uh-oh. This one's great. Molly, Mr. Jolly, Miss Holly, Mr. Golly, Mrs. Foley, and more. My, oh my, a mountain of piled up high. So not only do we have all the mittens piled up high, we now have all the people tied up inside the pile. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, Molly's parents paced and fretted. Where, oh, where is Molly? We are worried she's late. When they called the school and got no answer, they quickly dialed 911. And then Molly's parents raced to the school, along with a few other parents and police officers and firefighters and ambulance workers. With special snip, snapping, cutting equipment and super duper teamwork, everyone was free from the duct tape in no time flat. Hooray! Yelled Molly along with a few other students. Hooray! Yelled Molly's parents along with a few other parents. Everyone high-fived and hurried home for supper. Everyone, that is, except Mr. Jolly, Miss Holly, Mr. Golly, and Mrs. Folly. They mumbled and grumbled and rumbled and roared. You forgot your mittens! Mittens, mittens, my oh my, a mountain of mittens piled up high. Look, they're all like, what are we gonna do with these mittens? A Mountain of Mittens by Lynn Plourde. Keep track of your mittens. Okay, the next story, Learning to Ski with Mr. Magee. This is a very funny story, and it's fresh and new here at the library. So I'm the first to read it, but you could be the second. This is Chris Van Dusen. He does his own drawings. One winter morning at 6:53, Mr. Magee and his little dog Dee woke to find fresh snow and a beautiful sky and decided it's time to give skiing a try. I meant to mention, this story's in rhyme, so listen to the rhyme. Now notice, Mr. Magee does not know how to ski, so he's going to try and teach himself. Before we drive all the way to Mount Snow, follow me, Dee. I know right where to go. Across from the house and just up the way is a great little hill with a view of the bay. We'll practice up there till we learn how to ski. Then we'll head for the mountain, said Mr. Magee. A few minutes later, they came to a spot where nothing could get in their way, Magee thought. So he put on his skis, Dee hopped in the pack, and with poles in his hands and his dog on his back, he inched to the edge very slowly until his skis teeter-tottered, then started downhill. Beautiful view. Big hill to learn how to ski on. Not far down the hillside from Mr. Magee, and just out of sight, there happened to be a curious moose. He was out on a search for the succulent sticks of the great northern birch. Then he spotted a tree, the biggest he'd see on the opposite side of the gaping ravine. So here's a little ravine cut into the earth, and the moose sees the tree he wants, the birch. But here comes Mr. Magee. The moose turned around, and what did he see? Mr. Magee and his little dog Dee. The moose was so shocked he stood frozen in fear, but Mr. Magee hadn't learned how to steer. And he knew very soon they were going to collide. So he called to the moose, "Would you please step aside?" I don't know if the moose speaks English. But the moose didn't move, so Magee yelled, "Duck!" And that was the moment they ran out of luck. Because while they were sliding right under the moose, the tips of the skis snagged the log of a spruce. Right there. In a flash and a flip, they flew over the log, tossing poor Mr. Magee and his dog head over heels straight into the gap. Look at See? Shh. And the dog covering his eyes. When the end of the skis came down with a slap, so they were stranded, Magee and his pup, across a ravine 100 feet up. Look at Mr. Magee. Oh no. They hung there, suspended, not making a sound. When the moose came back, he looked all around. He didn't see dear Magee. But what was this? A bridge to the birch above the abyss. The moose took a step. He was steady and slow, but his weight caused the skis to sag and to bow. And when he looked down, his heart skipped a beat, for Mr. Magee was right under his feet. They both were like, yikes! With a snort, the moose leapt. The skis went spring. They popped up in the air with a zip and a zing, and up like a rocket shot Dee and Magee. Whoosh. Landing feet first, just as safe as he can be. Pretty miraculous. Well, that was exciting, said Mr. Magee, but I'm not really sure we learned how to ski. I think I might need a lesson or two. I think that perhaps it's the best thing to do. When we got home, he said with a smile, we'll let someone else use the skis for a while. So the snowman outside his house has the skis and the pole and the hat, and Mr. Magee and his pup are safely home having some hot cocoa. Mr. Magee is, not the dog. Learning to ski with Mr. Magee. That is the basis for our craft, of which we will scoot right over to the table. See you in a minute. Hello, my crafting friends. We're back at the table once again. You see, I'm still rhyming. Now, I was inspired with Mr. Magee's story, and so I have made, come forward, my little skier, I made a little skier myself. There he is. Okay, so how did I get this ready for you at home? I went ahead and I did the hot gluing already for the skis and the ski boots onto the body. So all of these will be the way you'll receive them. This is how I chose to finish mine off. So what I did is I colored the body, and then I'm going to show you, oh yes, I'll talk about the little hat, headband. This is how I finished mine off, and this is what you'll receive in your kit, everything, so you can make it look like this or as you would like. Okay, he's going to go behind for a while. Now, when you get your plain little skier like this, you're going to have three different, at least two, maybe I think two different pipe cleaners cut in your kit a certain way. So no, it is three, I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever. So the first one is you wrap one of them, I don't care, it's up to you which color, but you wrap the pipe cleaner around the little skier's neck. And I know that sounds terrible, but really there's no pain in the making of this craft. So I'll show you if I can get it undone. Sometimes they're tricky once they're twisted. Yeah, he won't come out. But anyway, you get the idea. So you keep wrapping so that you have the making of arms. Okay, so I wrapped it a couple times, and then I'm going to bend his little arms, or a girl, maybe it's a girl. You bend their little arms so that they're getting ski ready. Now, I would suggest doing the coloring or painting. Even painting would be better. I say better, it would be smoother, like a craft paint. to be able to do that. But I used marker and it worked just fine. So I've got the arms on, and then once you've done all the coloring of the skis and the pole, the boots, then these were the way I made the poles. So I took the poles and I just wrapped the poles around the arm, and then I bent the bottom so that it had a little pole section to stick in the snow, and so on and so forth. And so then you shape it and bend it the way that you feel is right, and there is the ski pole. Okay? This one wants to fight me, but you know, play around with it, it'll work. So that's that. And then, yes, so the little hat. In your kit, I went ahead and did the hot gluing already of the headband. And your choice, but I'll put these little pom-poms in. I think it makes a really cute little hat. And then tiny, tiny little googly eyes will be included. What I did is I used a magic marker, a permanent marker, to make its little mouth. And I think that's it. You'll have everything you see here in your kit. And as always, we love to see how you have finished your craft. I hope you get a chance to get out and play, but don't do what Mr. Magee did and find a big hill and learn to ski, okay? Stay safe. Until next time, see you later. Whoops, took his ski off. All right, bye-bye.